Okay, this is a 7-minute summary of Monday, 13 April class and 1 Corinthians. So let's get to work. Okay, we're going to first start off by doing a little bit of PowerPoint. And we're talking about today, we're going to use the Sabbath as an example to understand Jesus's other teachings about the law. So we're going to look at this story. On the Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and his disciples began to make their way, picking some heads of grain. Now, you're not allowed to do that. It's definitely forbidden by the law. For example, one time in the book of Numbers, a man was picking sticks up on the Sabbath, and they stoned him. They put him to death. The Sabbath was central in Israel's law, and I'm not going to show you those passages, but they are in the PowerPoint, and you should definitely look at them, because these passages are very strong on the Sabbath. So it's central. And yet Jesus has a different position on the Sabbath. His answer is not expected. And it's really shocking. It's revolutionary. Then he told them, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. In other words, Jesus was allowing his disciples to pick the grain because the Sabbath was not their master. It was their servant. The Sabbath was created for their benefit. And if the Sabbath took benefit away from them, they're hungry. And guess what? They can eat. They can pick the grain. Totally shocking. Totally unexpected. Never would happen. Never would happen in the law that God gave through Moses. It's not that Jesus is exactly contradicting the law of Moses, but it does show us something very, very important about the law of Moses. The law of Moses was given for the people of Israel to be able to remain in the land of promise, Canaan, which became Israel. And that's what you need to understand. The law of Moses are God's rules that keep the Hebrews in the land. It's God's covenant stipulations. Look it up. You'll see what the word stipulations mean. So it's God's contract with Israel. God says, I'm giving you my land, but I'm not really giving it to you. It's still going to be my land, but I'm going to let you live there. However, it's going to be rich and full of honey and full of grain and milk. It's going to be a wonderful place to live. But if you want to stay in the land, I've got rules, agreements, pretty simple, pretty down to earth. You got to follow those laws. If you follow the laws, you stay in the land. But if you don't follow the laws, I'm kicking you out. You can't stay in my land unless you follow my laws. Now, the laws are for the whole nation. The laws aren't for individuals. It's not like the bad people are going to be kicked out. The good people are going to stay. No. The whole nation gets kicked out because this is the whole nation's responsibility. It's a contract, a covenant with God. It's a contract, a covenant with God between God and the whole nation. All right, so I think I got that. So then Jesus says, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. And if you think that the Sabbath law is going to make you righteous before God for eternal life, no, that's not its purpose. The Sabbath law is to fulfill your responsibilities, your obligations to live in the land. But it's not righteousness. And God actually created the law of the Sabbath for the benefit of people, not to punish them. All right, so now what we want to do is we're going to skip over to the Bible, and we're going to just look at two passages super quickly because I only have 2.5 minutes left. So first we're going to go to Romans 14. Just want to show you something that you should know. One person considers one day to be above another day. Someone else considers every day to be the same. We're right here. Each one must be fully convinced in his own mind. Whoever observes a day, observes it for honor of the Lord. I could keep reading, but the point that he's making is that some people think that the Sabbath day must be observed. No problem. Some people think the Sabbath day doesn't need to be observed. No problem. Whoever observes the day observes it for the honor of the Lord. Each one, look at this crazy thing. Each one must be fully convinced in his own mind. That's all that matters. And so now, all of a sudden, we're learning something about the law. We do not have to obey the law of the Sabbath. It's saying it right here. Why is that? Well, we see that in Colossians. Colossians gives us a very clear understanding of why. So look what he says here. Therefore, verse 16, don't let anyone judge you. Don't let anyone pressurize you in regard to food and drink or in the matter of a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath day. And then these are a shadow of what was to come. The substance is the Messiah. Food and drink, festival, new moon, Sabbath day, they're shadows. I'm going to do an easy shadow first. The sacrifice, it's a shadow. The blood of a bull or the blood of a goat doesn't really take away sin. The blood of Christ takes away sin. So in the Old Testament, they sacrificed as a shadow. The reality was Christ. If Christ didn't come, those sacrifices would be meaningless. Another shadow is the priest. The temple is a shadow. The festivals are all shadows. Passover only has meaning because Christ was crucified on Passover. So you see what we're doing here is Paul's helping us to understand that the Sabbath is a shadow of Jesus Christ. It's about rest, but we won't find true rest unless we come to Jesus Christ. That's where our true rest is. Rest from sin, rest from trying to please God, rest from trying to be good people, rest from trying to make God accept us. No, you come to Christ and you stop working to get your salvation and you trust in him alone. So therefore, we no longer have to worry about obeying the law in this way, because the law does not actually give us righteousness. It never was meant to give us righteousness. The law would have kept the Hebrews in the land, but the law does give us Jesus Christ, because the law is the shadow of Jesus Christ. He's the reality. Hope this makes sense to you. If it doesn't, watch the whole lecture, which has a lot more about this.